So everyone is aware, we are now streaming live. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at that instead of
seconds. Call the meeting to order. We got roll call taken care of.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve the September 13th agenda?
Actually, that should be September 20th.
Oh, yeah,
My fault.
September 20th. Supervisor Haskey, move, second by Mastler. Any discussion on the agenda? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Approve July 5th meeting minutes. Need a motion? Yonke, move. Approve minutes. Second by Augustine. Any corrections to minutes? Discussion on minutes? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion carries. Public comment. Do we have any who wish to speak? Anyone wish to speak to the committee? Anyone wish to speak? Administrators report, personnel report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have the personnel report in front of you. We have hired a new highway worker. We have a new jail dispatch sergeant. We have started the advertising for the jail cook and have received at least one application for that position and have a retirement within the highway. As you're seeing, the recruitments are for jail cook and still for a social worker in the children and family unit. So unless there's questions.
Any questions for Mr. Felt? Very well. We will move on to approval of 2022 cost of living increase.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You have the memo. The memo was in the packet that I am recommending for the cost of living adjustment to be 1.91% for pay plan 2022. What we typically do as a matter of process and procedure is we take the December number from the Wisconsin Employment Relations Commission, the WERC. They get that number from the Department of Revenue. If anyone has looked at the website, which Finance Director Kunish and I have on a regular basis, they have not provided a December number. So what I did is I actually called the WERC, and they were saying that we're still waiting for the number, the official number from DOR, but that the number that they have received unofficially is 1.91%. And so I am recommending 1.91%. What you will see also in your packet is a memo that talks about the different economic and payroll data. Because if we remember last year, there was a concern about affordability and sustainability, of which then a pay plan subcommittee was formed to therefore kind of go over the various economic and payroll data that administration reviews before it makes its recommendation as to the cost of living adjustment. So the memo talks about the various economic statistics that are part of this trend report that is also in your packet. And what we've seen, and the reason why I believe that the 1.91 is both affordable and sustainable, is I look at a number of different things. One is the FTEs, in other words, staffing is still generally flat over the last 5 years. We see wages and benefits while increasing. We have this kind of cycle where it's up 1 year, down another year. We know that from the cost of living standpoint, that the recommendation for 2022 is 1.91. The 3-year average of cost of living adjustment is 2.02, and the 5-year average is 1.71. We know that in that same respect, inflation has historically been just under 2%. We know that our net new construction is historically averaging about 1% annually. From an economic standpoint, our current unemployment rate is 2.8%, which is the second lowest in the state. We know that it's difficult for us to talk about equalized value, and part of the reason why is because of the recent revaluation and then court case regarding the Kewaunee Power Station. So it's tough to really provide any trend analysis regarding equalized value. We know that from a debt standpoint, it has continued to decline since 2007, and our debt is under 10% of our allowable debt margin. In that same respect, from strength economically, we have very strong fund balances from both a general fund standpoint and from a highway internal service fund standpoint. And I am confident that from a human services standpoint, at the end of 2020, we had only at the start of 2020, there was a $1.2 million deficit in the human services fund. At the end of 2020, there was a $300,000 deficit in the human services fund. And I am confident that at the end of 2021, that we will actually have a positive balance in the human services fund. Lastly, the workers' comp mod rate, which talks about costs for accidents with workers on the job, that has continued to be below average for the last 5 years, which has reduced our premium costs. If there's specific information or questions that people may have on any of the data, then I'm willing to try to answer that. If there's specific data, I do have Finance Director Kunish in the back that may be able to provide specific numbers as well if possible.
We have a motion. Supervisor Masteler, what is your motion? You need to tell me. Don't just wave at me.
Good evening.
It's nice to see
It's
you
nice
again,
to see
John.
me again.
You missed me, didn't you?
I certainly did. I had a wonderful time.
Good. That makes me happy.
My wife had a better time.
I'll bet.
She's ready to go again.
You have a motion for me?
I have a motion. I would make the motion that we, let's see, that we approve the 1.91 adjustment as recommended by the administrator. That would be my motion.
Do I have a second? Supervisor Haskey. Do I have discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Approve filling of highway worker position vacancy, Highway Department. Anything further we need on that?
That
Any
just for,
explanation?
from a historical standpoint, this was going to be taken up in August, but the meeting was canceled in August. We have started the recruitment process for the highway worker. This is not a new position. This is just a filling of an existing position.
I have Mr. Avery.
Point of clarification, that person has already started.
Yes.
Oh, okay then. I guess we need a motion. Do I have a motion? Supervisor Augustine, what is your motion? Thank you. And I have a second by Supervisor Poppy. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Then we move on to approval of 2022 personnel request. Let's start out with creation of land information coordinator position and wage scale. You have that information in front of you. Is there any further comment on that?
Are you asking me? or the
Yes,
committee?
anything
Sorry.
you wish to add on that, or is that explanatory?
Mr. Chair, I believe again with the retirement of Steve Hansen as the land information officer, most counties that are our size do not have a land information officer, and land information officer is usually present in counties that are larger. With the retirement of Mr. Hansen, I believe that we can serve all the duties that are necessary by giving some of the GIS duties to person in IT, some of the duties with the newly created land information coordinator position, and then some duties that would be contracted out with Rupert Milkie.
Okay.
So I recommend the creation of the position with the wage scale attached.
Do I have a motion? Supervisor Masteler.
I guess it's up to me again.
Yes.
I would make a motion that we create the position of land information coordinator as recommended in the by administrator.
Do I have a second? Is there any second to the motion? Second by Supervisor Teske. Discussion. Supervisor Poppy.
I know everybody in your packet got some information from some of these people that will be involved in this change, and some of them are requesting that we would give them a year trial to see how things would work out. My feeling is that would not be such a bad idea. So that's
Point of
fine.
order, Mr. Chair, is that what you're talking about, Supervisor Poppy, is the next item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
The first is the creation of the position.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
Thank
think
you.
maybe we're confused on this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So what we're doing is we're creating the position. We're not dealing at this time with
Okay.
where the position is going to be assigned. Supervisor Romden?
Supervisor, could you speak into your mic, please?
Is it on?
Turn it on, it would help. Huh?
That'll work even better.
Perfect. This memo from Scott on regarding this, creating this position dated September 20th. Down at the bottom, it talks about how many places have land information officers, where they are. In item 1 at the bottom, it talks about,
Again, Supervisor Romden, that is the next item on the agenda. The first item is the creation of the position, which is the first memo saying creation of land information coordinator position. That's the
Well,
item in front of you.
Mike, I have a question on the position that you have listed here. It talks about the position you're talking about is going to not all the land information officers' duties will be assumed under the duties and responsibilities of the land information coordinator. Is that what you're talking about? Where some of this is going to IT, some of it will be contracted to Ragged and Milky?
Correct.
Aren't we doing some of that right now?
Right now, you have the current land information officer that is doing all of the splits, the parcel splits and the partial splits. You have the land information officer that is providing all of the land information as well. So they're doing the GIS as well as the land information. If there's better questions, I think that maybe Mr. Hanson could explain what duties would be going to Rupert Milky, what duties would be going to IT, and what duties would be staying with the land information coordinator.
Did you want clarification from Mr. Hanson, Supervisor Romden?
I think I got the gist of it.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Supervisor Yonke?
I guess my question is, what is help desk guy gonna all do? Just a GIS coordinator?
He would do a number of the GIS items, but not all of them. The simple splits that, at least for right now, from a training standpoint, he would be simple splits that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, is where you're taking a 40 and doing a split between a 40 and doing a 10 and a 30. That's a simple split that can be done. Some that are a little more difficult, those at this present time would be contracted out with Rupert Milky.
The only thing that we'll be doing is the basic one lot CSM splits, which is probably about half of the splits that we have. So he's gonna save the county probably $15,000 a year by doing basic ones like that. Rupert and Milky will get all of the other splits and everything else.
Thank you.
That's the plans.
So basically, simple splits include like when you take a parcel and take out the buildings and then leave the, on a rezone. Is that what you mean?
Yes, a one lot CSM.
So, hold, I'm sorry.
He's gonna be doing, so he's not gonna be looking at fees or anything like that.
Steve, can we have you come up to the microphone and explain this
Explain
whole
anyway.
thing? I know we've, if you could just give us a little bit of an overview, I think that's going to help us a lot.
Kevin Donovan in the IT.
Turn on your mic, Steve. The right one, that looks, there you go.
Kevin Donlin in the IT department will be doing the basic parcel splits. Okay, and what I've told him, it'll be the one lot CSMs. Those are the most common splits that we have. So if you have a subdivision, he's not going to do those. If you have a two lot CSM, he's not going to do those. If you have a deed, or he has to look at that and try to figure out, he's not going to do those. So, but the basic one lot CSM splits, where if you have a set of buildings that you're splitting out of a bigger parcel, that's what he'll be doing. So it's something where he has a map in front of him, and I'm just teaching him to go through step 1, 2, 3, 4 and just do that. So GIS, he's not a GIS person. He's going to try to learn that if he can, but I'm teaching him just to go through and do those simple ones. So basically right now, that's about half of the splits that we have. So like I said, he's going to save probably 15,000 or so by doing it that way. So
Stay there.
Question?
If you would,
sure.
because I have a feeling we may have more for you. Supervisor Romden.
So in regards to what you talked about now, the single split versus the multi splits, are you doing all that right now?
I do everything right now. The only thing that we contract out for is the website stuff. So I don't do any website stuff that's contracted, but all of the splits, I do everything. So all GIS, all splits and everything. So.
Thank you. Ed, hold on a second. Yes, Supervisor Pop.
So you said that this person is going to try to do more extensive training. How is he going to do that if you're not
It's going to
here?
be difficult because he'd have to go take training, if he wants to. That's up to him. He can take it however much he wants to do. But he's pretty busy with his other job. So to learn this on the job, it's going to be tough. So that's up to him. So I told him, basically I'm gonna show you the basics and to do these splits, and that's the only thing that he's gonna be doing, so. But like I said, we spend a lot of money, we would spend a lot of money on that. And this is actually grant money that pays for this too, so, because we get the base budget grant money and that's gonna go toward that position, so.
Any other questions for Mr. Hanson while we've got him at the microphone? Okay, thank you. Is there any other discussion?
So,
Yes, Supervisor
so
Romden.
basically what we're doing in creating this new position is removing some of the duties that the current land information officer does. Sending some of that to the IT department and contracting the rest at Reichert Milky.
That's essentially it. Yes, that's basically the proposal. Any,
Well, then go up there.
okay. What do you won't need a gym membership. We just keep.
What we're
running
talking
back.
about at this point is the mapping portion of it. Tammy will be the land information coordinator. And that's going to be now the additional duties will be the land division ordinance. She's going to be in charge of that. So if somebody has to do a CSM, she's going to have the authority now to tell them, yes, you do a CSM. No, you're just going to do an attachment or whatever. So she is administering the land division ordinance. Most counties have a planning department that does that, but now Tammy's taking that part over. Also, all of the survey stuff, the land survey stuff. So tie sheets and that kind of stuff. If a surveyor goes out and there's a monument that's set, she's going to handle the tie sheets, the summary diagrams for the townships, all the plat of surveys that come in. She's in charge of all that now. So she's a property lister right now, but she's going to take on those extra duties. And also the LIO assistant, Scott, before when he spoke, there's only a few counties that have a land information director. Every county has a land information officer.
Right.
Okay, and Scott will be doing that, so.
Correct. From nomenclature, you're right. Every county has to have an appointed land information officer. Most that have land information departments, I apologize, are larger counties.
So like the meeting next year, Scott will be running the meeting and that kind of stuff, but Tammy will do some stuff for Scott, so.
Any other discussion, any other questions?
So
Yes.
technically, you're taking your job and dividing it in 3 different areas.
Yes.
And from a historical standpoint, why don't you give the history as to how your position first
The register of
became?
deeds used to be the land information officer and the survey manager. The county treasurer had the property lister under just the property listing duties. And then GIS, I was in land and water and that was my job. So it was 3 ways 20 years ago, so.
Right. There will be a fairly significant savings to the county by doing this. Supervisor Teske.
I don't know if this is a place to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm not for this. I don't like this split 3 ways. I would like to see Tammy do it all and nothing coming out of the IT department. And I'm not for this contractor with Rooker and Milky. That's going to cost a lot of money with contracted services. And if somebody does have questions, they can go to Steve and Steve usually gets at it right away. But if you're going to contract it out, who's to say when you're going to get that particular question answered by Rooker and Milky? So I would rather see Tammy do most of it and not farm it out to the IT department or to a contracted position. That's just my feeling.
The only issue that we have, Supervisor Teske, is that Ms. Malik, while very good with the land information and the land division ordinance, does, at least at this present time, does not have that skill regarding the GIS standpoint. So regardless, once Mr. Hanson retires, we will have to contract with Rooker Milky with some of this. And the land information department already does contract with Rooker Milky for some other services.
Scott and I talked about this and, this will work for a while, but it might not be a permanent solution. You'll have to see how everything, I don't know. But for a year or 2 or 3, it should work. You can save some money for the county. But in the future, a land information director probably isn't an option. There's only about 15 counties in the state that have a land information director. And I mean, the lowest paid is, I don't want, it's quite a bit more than what I'm making, I know. So, I mean, a GIS coordinator is an option in the future, possibly, if you have to go that route, and you could fill that for less money, but, and then you'd be about even to where you are right now. But this will save the county some money, so.
Supervisor Teske.
I just have another question. After Steve retires, I know there is a time with retirement fund that you cannot become contracted or come back to work. Is it such a thing that after that time is over, which I'm not for sure what it is anyway, we could contract with Steve on some of this?
They can't become an employee. You can contract.
You can?
Yes.
After how many? How
Because
long?
they're not an employee.
I
And so
know.
therefore it's not double dipping. So, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wisnicki, but if he were to retire on January 2nd, January 3rd, you could hire him as a contractor, not as a county employee.
But there's a waiting period, right?
Not from a contracting standpoint.
No, but I mean, obviously we'd have to be careful if the state felt we were being too cute by half, but yes, theoretically, if Mr. Hanson sets up Hanson Superior GS Contracting LLC and we want to contract with that firm, we could certainly do that.
Okay, any other discussion?
That shouldn't be part of your plans. So.
Sounds like.
Thanks for the tip.
Ready for retirement. Supervisor Yonke.
So Steve, say a town would want address listing of the town properties and names attached. Who would they ask then after?
Rupert and Milky, I just put together a list and that's one of the things in there. So if you have your address signs and stuff like that, you need a list. That's a GIS function. So Rupert and Milky would have to do that. I'll be meeting with them in about a month or so, and I'm going to talk to them about that and what they have to do.
So that would be an extra cost that we didn't have before.
The cost we don't have figured out. Scott and I haven't talked. I don't know if the county's going to pick up the cost or if they're going to charge the towns. I'm not sure how that's going to work. So.
You know where that's going.
I know where that's going. Towns get charged. It was
bigger
nice to call up Steve and it would get done. And
The bigger question comes down to, and again, this is where we've been spoiled in the respect that for a county our size, 20,000 people, and the amount of land, and we're not a big county either. We've been very fortunate that we have one person that has been able to do the GIS, the land division ordinance, and all of those items and put it and in some ways the real property listing as well. We've been very fortunate. Counties our size don't have something like that. It is common that those duties are in multiple departments and that some of that is contracted out. That's not uncommon. We've been spoiled by the department that Mr. Hanson has been able to build up from scratch. I have received numerous compliments on about our GIS and the ability for the public to be able to receive all the information through our GIS system that counties our size or even larger do not have that same type of information for their residents and businesses. So as unfortunately with Mr. Hanson retiring, we're looking at the best way to move this forward. And the recommendation is we can still have someone that can do the land division ordinance and do the real property listing. And we can check and see if we can do some of the GIS information, do the GIS duties in-house. And if not, then we may have to contract all for that.
We need to be good stewards of taxpayer money. This is something that presents significant savings to the county. If we decide, this isn't a deal where if we decide that this just isn't working, we can't reassess after a year. Any other discussion? Supervisor Yonke.
so as far as general public and other interested people, you can go to GIS land information yet and still get on there for free.
Yes, and as always, if you have questions, There's still, Ms. Malik will still be available to answer regarding land division ordinance, real property listing, those types of things. So it's not like there will be no one there. There is someone there. There's just some duties that will have to be contracted out.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if we, have to go through Rickard and Milky
No,
for that. Okay,
You wouldn't ever have to call Rupert or Milky. You'll call somebody at the county and then
yeah, because they paid a bill, huh?
I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know.
I think you're okay.
Supervisor Romden?
Okay.
Just for clarification, if nothing else. With it, if we create this new position, the land information coordinator, is that person going to be responsible for coordinating things between the IT and Rupert Milky?
Yeah, I believe the way it's gonna work is Tammy will take all the splits and Kevin will get them and then he'll look at them. If he can do them, he'll do them. If not, Rupert or Milky he's the one that's gonna talk to Rupert or Milky. So
But she will be coordinating all this stuff.
she will give all the splits to Kevin, I believe, is the way it's gonna work.
Rickert and Milky has done work for us for how long? I mean,
30 years.
Yeah, and they seem very eager.
They did all the parcel mapping to start. Okay.
And they seem very eager at our last meeting.
Yes, they have a
seemed
team
very-
put together to try
Yeah.
this, so we'll see what happens.
Right. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Assignment of land information coordinator position to county treasurer's office. I think you've seen what the request is. Do I have a motion?
Do I have to do this again?
You're gonna have to, John.
All right, just for you.
Thank you.
Uh,
See, going to Disney World brings somebody back happier.
no, not Disney World, Dollywood.
Oh, Dollywood. Disney World for adults.
They've got the same problem we got here,
Yeah,
lack of workers.
I've been to Dollywood. Proceed.
All right. My motion would be to assign the land information coordinator position to the county treasurer's office.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Supervisor Yankee, second. Discussion.
Can I ask why we are doing this? Moving it to the treasury office?
Absolutely. As I had delineated out in my memo as to why I believe having the land information coordinator under the state treasurer's office, there's three main reasons. One, I do not, as a matter of course, if we were to leave it as it is, you would have a one-person hourly employee that is their own department. As a matter of course, I don't like to have single persons as a department. I did not do that with the public information officer / tourism coordinator. When the zoning department, when the zoning administrator had retired, I then transferred that position to land and water conservation department. I think from both a budgetary as well as a personnel standpoint, that there should be someone that is overseeing and managing an hourly employee. So in looking at that, I then tried to decide what were the best options. And when looking at which departments that could be, there was the state treasurer's office, because the real property listing is an integral part of the tax bills. There was also the possibility of it being in the Register of Deeds office, because duties had previously been in the Register of Deeds office. There could be the thought of putting it in the IT because of GIS, or that it could be in some other department otherwise. And so I looked at what other counties do within the state. And within your packet, you see that 25 counties have a land information department that has multiple people, and this position would be in a land information department. You also have 25 counties that have this similar position in the county treasurer's office. And so therefore, when I looked at what would be the best fit and the best way to do this, I looked at one, that the treasurer's office, it's similar to 25 other counties. Two, that from a relocation standpoint, there is no movement whatsoever because the land information coordinator is currently located within the county treasurer's office. And three, that I am confident in the treasurer's ability to manage this employee. Now, I know that there could be some concerns as to if the land information coordinator is, some counter could be is, well, why not let the land information coordinator do it themselves and be their own department? Again, I am not supportive of having a single hourly employee be their own department. First of all, I like to try to have larger departments from a managerial and budget standpoint. And so the question or the argument, and I understand, and I can understand the argument saying, well, let's allow this person to try to do it on their own. And that's a valid argument. I will then just go to the other side, and a valid argument just the same as let's try it under the treasurer's office and see how that goes as well. The issue, again, that I have is that if there is any type of personnel issue, then there is no manager to take care of that. Instead, that's a single department, and that's where I'd like a manager or a supervisor to be part of that.
Supervisor Romden?
Who currently manages, if you will, Steve? Do you do that, Scott?
Yes, because he is a department head, I oversee the land information officer.
So if you're going to become the land information officer, then who's going to oversee you?
The county board oversees me because I'm the county administrator.
Any other?
What has-
Supervisor Poppy, let's go to you.
So all these people that are going to be taking these positions as they're split, have they all been trained to do their position comfortably? Are they all comfortable with what they're going to be assigned to?
Looks like Mr. Hanson wants to weigh in on that.
Yeah, please.
You look like you're on the verge of an answer, so you probably have as much knowledge of it as anybody.
Okay, I guess my recommendation to Scott was that the land information coordinator position should be a standalone salary position, not an hourly position, like he said. And my reason for that is because Tammy has been here 30 years. She's absolutely excellent at her job. She's going to be taking on, she's going to have more authority now with the land division ordinance. You know, she's going to be telling people, yes, you have to do this. No, you can't, you know, and it's authority. Okay. And also with the survey stuff. So it's extra work that she's going to be doing. And I guess I don't have an issue with the one-person departments. You know, we had Ross as a one-person department for a long time. Paul Kunish was a one-person department for a while. And I don't have an issue with that, especially for somebody who's been here that long. And I think she's earned it. I mean, she's been here that long and she's excellent, you know, so that's my reasoning why I think she should be a standalone department. I think that would work. Philosophically, Scott and I have had this discussion and he looks at it different than I do, but I disagree with him there, so.
Do we have other discussion, Supervisor Teske?
I received quite a few emails on my computer at home stating that these people were not in favor of putting the land information under the treasurer's office. And my recommendation is to table this for at least till June of next year to give Tammy a chance to see what she can do on her own. And if she does have a question, then maybe she can go to the county treasurer for some help. But don't burden Michelle with another land information person under her. So I make a motion to table this till next year.
I'm not sure that can be.
Is there, does there need to be a second for table, Jeff?
Is there a second for tabling the motion?
There's no discussion on the tabling motion.
The motion that we're voting on then is to table the motion that you had before you, Supervisor Masteler's motion, until June of
Yeah, that would give Tammy a while to
2022.
fill a new position and see how it goes on her own.
So she
There's
would be
there's no discussion on tabling a motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
I,
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, let's, can I have the nays put their hands up, please? What, were you? Is it just?
what are we
Supervisor?
doing now?
I'm trying to figure out who voted nay. Yes, there we go. Okay, so motion to table carries, correct?
Correct.
All right. Increase emergency management administrative assistant from 20 to 30 hours. Is there a motion? Motion by Supervisor Augustine. Is there a second by Supervisor Romden? Discussion. Seeing none? All in favor of the motion signify
I do.
by, whoa,
I do.
yes.
I do.
Oh, well, you gotta speak up a little quicker there. Go ahead.
If we bring that person to 30 hours,
Mhm.
we also get all the good things that come with that 30 hours.
Is that correct, Mr. Wisnicky?
I can,
30 hours, you
All the
I guess I-
benefits.
30 hours, 30 hours is considered full-time, and therefore full-time, the county must offer to the employee the benefits that we provide full-time employees. For full clarification, at 30 hours, there would be a proration of those benefits, but the benefits must be offered.
What is the cost of that then? Do we know?
What you have, at least the cost right now that you have, it's in your packet as to the going from 20 hours to 30 hours, the total amount would be $8,962. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 8,962.
Any other discussion?
Yes. Actually, it would be more than that. I'm sorry. Actually, that would be more than that. Because what we have in there is at 0.69, not at 0.75. So it would actually be more than that.
It'd be closer to $12,000.
So approximately 12,000.
12,000 plus if they sign up for health or dental, to be a prorated portion of that.
And what would that be?
75% of what's our health insurance, 28,000
Actually, it's closer to 30.
to 30. Add another several $1,000s.
So we're at 15, is that correct? Or is it a shot?
Wouldn't it be a smarter move to bring her up to 27 and a half hours and leave her at part-time?
What I'm gonna need some, well, they admit, why do I keep looking? You should know these answers.
So-
What would the cutoff point be? Is what
As long as
Supervisor
it's not 30 hours, the employee is not considered full-time. And therefore, if it's 29 hours a week, that is fine. The biggest question or the big concern would have to be is that from an employer standpoint, you try not with overtime or otherwise to get past 30 hours When you start to do that, you start to dip your toe into a gray area where the Department of Labor may decide that that is now a full-time person.
Supervisor Yonke.
Tracy's been in emergency management for so long, I forget what she was paid back then. A little history on,
From the history standpoint, and Tracy, correct me if I'm wrong. So when Tracy, she was previously in the position that we're talking about, and that was a full-time position. And then when she was asked to become the emergency management director, my predecessor had asked if he could make the assistant a half-time position with her taking on some of those duties as emergency management director. So it was a full-time position. When Tracy became full-time, it then became a half-time position. Ms. Nolenberg is now asking for the position to go from 20 hours to 30 hours. Did I misspeak at all, Tracy?
The only part is your predecessor didn't ask me to get extra administrative duties.
He told you. Gotcha. So, yeah, I wasn't there for that conversation.
Supervisor Romden.
In this handout that we got, referencing all these changes.
Your mic, please, Mr. Romden.
Sorry. The sheet that we got here with all these changes with the red line, orange lines on them, under emergency management, it says FTE change. And on here it says from 20 hours to 27.5 hours per week.
Correct.
So in Tracy's letter, she says 30. So where did this 27 come from?
What I would have recommended was the 27 and a
Oh,
half.
okay.
So you were recommending 27 and a half.
Correct.
Okay. So how did it get on? Okay. All right.
Well,
Yes.
what are they asking for? Part-time or full-time?
Well, if you go to 30 hours, you're full-time.
Correct.
So it's, what they're asking for is 30 hours, right?
That's what I thought.
I mean, correct? That's, if you're going from 20 to 30. And if you approve 30, it doesn't matter what they're asking for. If you approve 30 hours, it's full-time.
Right.
You could, and again, from an option standpoint, if this committee saw fit, they could increase it to 40 hours a week.
Make it a
And I
salary
doubt Ms.
position.
Nolenberg would be against that.
I wanted to offer a point of clarification. I think they're eligible for health insurance so long as they're more than 600 hours.
Yes.
And according to our policy, and we pay a prorated share.
I don't believe that's the case anymore.
That's-
There were people that were grandfathered in like Jerry Johnnet, but that is no longer the case from personnel policy.
Oh, that's what it says in my version, but anyway, WRS doesn't kick in until 1,200 hours. So obviously under either scenario, you would be on hook for WRS.
Yes, so approving, if you approve 30 hours is full-time and therefore eligible for healthcare, correct? That's what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay. Other discussion? Okay, can we have the motion one more time read back?
Sorry. It was moved by Augustine, seconded by Romden to approve the increase of the emergency management administrative assistant from 20 hours per week to 30 hours per week.
Okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed?
Yeah,
Carries. Moving on to additional step increase for account clerk, 3 positions. 3 positions. Do I have a motion? Moved by Supervisor Augustine. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
You guys got to be a little quicker if you want to bring these forward here. You're killing me. Discussion. Supervisor Augustine.
I just want to add that I'm in support of all these additional step increases. I know this is going to cost the county a little bit of money this year. But with the hiring situation going on out there across the state and the nation, trying to find qualified employees is impossible these days. So I think we need to do everything we can to retain the employees we have, because it's going to cost a lot more money to replace those employees and train new employees moving forward.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Additional step increase for highway worker positions ×3.
Times four,
Times
sorry,
four.
there's a misprint there.
That's a misprint, even better. Is there a motion?
I would make the motion to do the additional step increase for the highway worker positions.
Motion by Mastalir, second by Augustine. Discussion. Are we having difficulty getting workers in the government workers, government positions, county workers?
That's a matter of perspective, Mr. Chair. The number of applicants has declined. As for the ability to get applicants, at least at this present time, we still are receiving applicants, and we are still able to find qualified applicants that we want to offer positions to. But the number of applicants has decreased. And I always am afraid to use an adjective like significantly, because what may be significant to me may not be significant to others. But there is a definite decrease in the amount of applicants that are applying for county positions.
And what is the cost of this to the county? That was going to be about 1,600 ×4, correct?
Again, you have that on your sheet within your packet. So two of the positions, each of them would be $1,602 for the additional 2 steps. For another one, it would be $1,577. And for the fourth one, it would be $1,502.
And that'll be on top of increases within the budget for wage increases, correct?
Correct.
Supervisor Teske.
When did these employees start, do you know?
Well, we know for one that 2 of them have begun early because they're at step 2 and would then be going to 3. So that would be roughly about 2 years in. And then we have others that have about 6 years in. They would be going from year 6 to year 7. I do not have the exact time, but roughly a step is roughly a year. So if you're having someone going from step 2 to step 3, typically they've completed 2 years of service. If they're at step 6, they've typically completed 6 years of service.
Any other questions? Supervisor Ramden.
We discussed this at the last highway committee meeting, and the request is for 2 of these people to go from a step 2 to a step 4, and 2 of them to go from a 6 to an 8.
Correct.
Now, part of the discussion was that the people that are in step 2 and step 6 are basically doing the same work as the guys that are at step 10 or 12 or wherever they are. But the guys that are at step 10 or 12 have been there a number of years and have gone through the process, where these guys are just starting out and haven't kind of climbed the ladder, if you will, to those next steps. But the issue, I think, is they're not making the same amount of money as their counter workers. That's the way I understood it anyway.
So was this endorsed by the highway committee?
It was split.
It was split.
It was split. Let's see. Other discussion? All right, you have the motion before you. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right. Modification of wage scale for unit managers. times 4, right? We have a motion? Sure. Supervisor Haskey? Second? No second?
I'll second it.
Discussion. You're doing that on purpose. Discussion. Supervisor Augustine.
I thought we had a discussion about, was that maybe a year ago, not even 8 months ago, about the modification of the pay scale, and we decided we're not going to change that. We're going to work with what we have that came with the pay scale that was readjusted a number of years ago or something along those lines. So here it is again, of modification of a pay scale.
Well, that's true, but we're talking about 18 cents an hour here, correct? Whereas we just gave away 1,600 a year times 4.
Well, that's the difference of following the step increase versus modifying the pay scale.
Sure. Did you wish to respond to that, Mr. Wisnicki?
I would love to respond, and I did put together a memo for you, and I'm sure you all read it, and it's
Thoroughly, twice.
very compelling. And I
It
made
moved-
this
it moved
case,
me.
and I know you moved, Mr. Chair, and I am sympathetic to, or at least I'm cognizant of, we don't really want to mess with our pay scales, but our managers, as you look at the data, are just so far below what other like positions get in the like county, and the data's right there. I don't need to repeat it for you. But they're not the starting wage necessarily, but the average sort of max wage, we're about $6 less than their peers an hour. And that's, so I want to give them opportunity for growth. And recognizing this is a frugal county, I slotted them where they are. So we're not getting some step increases, as Mr. Chair says, we're giving them about the equivalent of 18 cents this year. And I also wanted to add a little bit about human services math. We receive revenues and we receive aid from a number of different sources, right? Human Services does. And our labor costs for the Human Services Department is about $2.5 million a year. The labor costs for the Human Services Department is about $2.5 million a year. Your contribution, the contribution of the Kewaunee County citizens, is $1 million, or this year, $1,031,000. You're paying $1,031,000 to get $2.5 million of labor. And oh, by the way, my overall budget is $6.5 million. So you're paying $1 million to get $6.5 million returned to this department. Typically, you'll see for every 40 cents you spend on labor, about 60 cents is paid for through revenue and other sources. So you're paying 40 cents on the dollar to begin with. I'm asking for 18 cents for my managers, who, by the way, turned in a hefty surplus last year, and we reduced our deficit down to $325,000. I fully anticipate and am very hopeful that we are going to eliminate that $325,000 this year. And as Mr. Felt indicated, I fully believe we will have a surplus in that account at the year end. So the important steps we made in the last couple of years was to hold our staff accountable, and our managers got that job done in spades. I'm asking them for a very reasonable adjustment that's well supported by the data. That's all I'm asking for. Thank you.
As I said, the memo was moving. Any other discussion? If you're, I understand the modification for the wage scale, but based on what we've been given away here tonight,
Yeah.
I think it would be difficult to decline this, but if there's no further discussion, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we keep going like this. I'm gonna feel like I should be wearing a red hat and beard up here. All right, transfer of contract caseworker positions to county caseworker positions. Do I have a motion? Supervisor Teske, do I have a second from Haskey? Do I have discussion? Supervisor Romden?
This is an issue that's surfacing from last year's discussion.
Yeah, but last year it was one position. This year it's the county declined one position last year, so this year the request is for 4.
Exactly.
And I'll give you, don't worry, Mr. Wisnicki, I'll give you fair time. I'm always give more than fair time to everybody. So go, I see you're anxious back there. Go ahead, Supervisor Romden.
Just a couple of questions. These people that we contract with for these specific jobs, they're contracted through an agency, I assume?
Correct.
And these people that we get from these agencies, they should, in theory, be qualified to handle these jobs. Why are we, according to the memo that we got, why are we training them then?
What happens is it's not so much a training standpoint. It's what happens is you start to have a caseload. And from a caseload standpoint, each county has their policies and procedures on how billing is taken care of, how what do I want to call it? How individual goals are made and treatment plans are put together. Different organizations and agencies will do things different. So when we talk about case managers and social workers, they have the training as case managers and social workers, but there's a certain amount of time that needs to be spent teaching those contract employees as to how Kewaunee County does our billing, how we take our notes, and how we do those administrative functions. It's probably also interesting in there to note, and what I had tried to do last year was to try to step this in, and I had never done the analysis as to what the cost is regarding a county worker versus a contract worker. I believe that Mr. Wisnicki has done a good job in helping to describe that. Every time that we have turnover from the caseworker standpoint that is contracted, which we seem to have a lot more of that than we do with a county worker, we have to pay, first of all, the recruitment fee and all of the time that is spent. Therefore, bringing that person up to speed is less time that they could be billing. And I'll leave that to Mr. Wisnicki as he explains that, but from a financial impact standpoint, because of turnover, we would actually be better off, in my estimation, to have those be county workers than to have them be contract
What
workers.
is the cost of this per year to the county? Wouldn't it be about $25,000, Mr. Kunish? Wouldn't it be about $25,000 per worker, 25 times 4? Am I incorrect?
On the bottom of the 2-page summary, the total for these 4 for this year is substantially less.
Next year.
If they stick with the health insurance, it would be very similar. We'd have a small $5,000 or $6,000. If they elect to enroll in family, that would be a different story. And you can't ask and you can't put that condition on them. So the answer to that is kind of, it depends. The current enrollment they have now is what is presented.
So are you saying that we're paying health insurance for these contracted employees?
We pay a rate, and within that rate is the benefits that the employment agency is paying. So in effect, yes, we're paying for their cost plus a little bit profit for the employment agency.
So what are we paying right now for the 4 contracted?
We pay the same rate they would get here plus, well, we pay 135%. So if they get $20 an hour, add 35% on that, and that's what they get, regardless of what insurance they take.
So what is the cost per year additional to the county, roughly, Mr. Kunish?
2022, our contract would be 67,000 and change, and our increased employee cost would be 58,000. That's for 3 FTEs out of the 4. Add another 25% to that if you want the full cost for a year at the existing health and dental enrollment.
Other discussion?
Is the 58 over and above what we're currently paying?
No, 58,000 is the additional cost as employees. We would then reduce our contracted costs.
So
The
what would
60
we reduce our contracted costs?
What would reduce that? We'd be
Well-
paying for 4 less bodies. Sorry, 3.5 in this case.
So then in 2023, if this goes through, we're going to have an additional 4 full-time county employees and we'll never get rid of them.
My response, Supervisor Rompton, would be, they've been with us now for over 10 years and we still haven't gotten rid of them. They're not going anywhere.
I guess I probably shouldn't have stated it that way. It's that once we have a full-time employee, it's hard to remove a full-time employee.
They're listed as a full-time employee, and that's what they will remain, county employee.
Okay.
Yes,
May I add you something to clarify as well for as far as the training goes? Some of the training, yes, they have to have a certain degree and some experience to go just to meet the basic minimum requirements. In addition to that, there's state statutes that dictate in order for them to work in these programs and to bill and generate money in these programs, they have to have an additional time. So when you look at was it upper 40s, low 50 for the actual cost to onboard a new person, some of that is just basic state statutory training that they're required to go into. As far as, I think it came up, recruitment for these positions, I can tell you from the most recent one that I hired, we used to get years ago 20 applicants, 25 applicants. We had a good pool to pick from. The last position, we were lucky to have 7. And of those 7, were they all qualified? No. Actually, I had to decline interviews because they didn't even meet the basic educational requirements for the position. They're not easy positions to have to deal with. It takes a significant amount of experience in addition to your basic degree.
other discussion?
I wondered if you wanted to hear from me, Mr. Chair.
I'd love to.
Thank you.
I'm sorry,
I
I
did
thought
put-
you were I thought you'd made some comments, but if you
Oh,
have
I-
more, we'd love to hear them.
Yes, on the second page there, Mr. Johnson put together the calculation of what it would cost next year. We're not sure what health insurances the employees would take, but if, as you see the different options, if the third option were played out, we'd actually save $2,500 next year, depending on if that one employee took family plan, it would cost us $26,000 more next year to move these positions from contracted to county employees. And that's my point here is we've had 10 people cycle through these spots in the last several years as outlined in the memo, and it costs us $50,000 a pop to try to replace them. It takes them about 8 months to get up to speed. And answer Mr. Ramsden's point, that company doesn't train them really. They're just running labor. They don't train anybody. We do all that work where they're effectively their employer. And while we're training them over that 8 months, because they're very specific programs, we are taking staff away from doing revenue generating activities to train them up. And then when we lose them, we lose all that time, effort, and money. And more, there's a client on the other end of this that's receiving services that we got to switch out case managers for these clients. These people, I like the people we have now, and I want to keep them. And they tell me that they like working for us. The wage is a fine wage. The benefit situation with that contracted firm is terrible. We recently had one return from maternity leave. She said it was a whole nightmare with that firm. And I worry, and my worry is founded, that given the choice, she's going to take a different job. These positions are being recruited heavily by other counties because the state keeps telling us to eliminate your wait list, and they're looking for these social workers. I don't want to replace them, and it's going to be hard to replace them. And we got good ones, they're trained up. And again, with my human services math, you're paying 40 cents on the dollar for these staffers. So I think it's reasonable. I hope you say yes and support this. I'll be back next year if you say no. Maybe you'll have a better case, but these are good folks. We're asking to give them a fair wage and benefit package, and that's my request. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any other discussion? Supervisor Teske.
Are these people willing to become county employees?
They
Or
most
do they
cer-
want to stay contracted?
they most certainly are. And I might add, we had all in favor except Mr. Swagel at Human Services. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion? No? Okay. We'll proceed to a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Who was the nay? Was Augustine? Okay. Motion carries. Additional step increase for public health secretary position. Do I have a motion? Supervisor Teske, do I have a second? Supervisor Augustine? And do I have discussion?
I won't say it.
What's that, Supervisor Poppy? Go ahead.
I think both of these, we're talking one at this time, but there's actually two coming up, correct? Same department.
It says one
One,
additional step increase for public health secretary position. Only got one.
basically, I think they definitely are doing their job considering the year we've just gone through. I have no problem in being in favor of giving that increase.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Reclassification of WIC aid position to community health education position. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Supervisor Poppy, second by Supervisor Augustine. Do we have any discussion?
As clarification, when you look at the cost, there is federal ARPA money that is paying for this reclassification.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, there we go. I don't think Santa Claus had a night like this in a while. All right, moving on to approval of redistricting plan. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the
Supervisor
proposed
Brown, second.
redistricting plan.
Second by Mastelier. Do we have discussion? Any discussion? Everybody's happy with it, must be.
I'm not, but
You're what?
I said I'm not, but
You're not.
it's the most reasonable plan that could come out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much more. I don't know what more Steve could have done with it.
No.
I thought he did a pretty impressive job, my opinion, but, and I say that as one whose district has, I don't know that mine had pretty substantial changes. But that's, we were the opposite of you, I believe. We grew.
So did we.
Oh, you did?
We had to give people to Anna P.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
There was some swaps.
So why is everybody trying to get out of Anapee, Supervisor Poppy?
Wage scale.
Gang problem there or what?
Wage scale.
Oh, wage scale. So maybe there was a gang problem.
No, it's wage. Flooding.
Well, anybody that's walked the streets of Anapee
They're
at
safe.
night.
They're safe.
Yeah, okay. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Chairman's report, jail study committee continues to move on, and union negotiating, contract negotiating, sheriff's department continues to move on. Our next meeting would be when? Should be the first Monday, right? Which would be
October 3rd.
October 4th.
4th.
October 4th, and that would be, but we would be meeting pretty close, but that would be at what time?
6 p.m. as usual, Mr. Chair.
6 p.m.
That's up to you. That's what's been typical, the first Monday
Yeah.
at 6 p.m.
We'll make it work. Unless do we want to go further out to get, back a bit? Probably not. All right, we'll get back on schedule. All right. I need a motion for that, don't I?
You do not.
No, I
You
don't at a
decided to
committee.
reply.
All right. It's set. I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Supervisor Poppy, second Supervisor Augustine. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Meeting adjourned at 7:11.
All that in a little over an hour.
I'm sorry,
Some of it does though, ultimately.
October 4, the first Monday in October.
Get that back. Yeah. Well, we were. It is. It is. Yeah, yeah, very well. Dramatic improvement. Well, we were in a giving mood tonight. That's all I'll say.